Welcome to London, one of the finest cities in the world, where men are dressed smart, women are looking pretty, the weather sucks, and there's a shit ton of wealth, which makes it a good place to pick up girls and a bad place to pick up girls, very much dependent on your style and who you are. What's imperative in London when you're approaching, if you're having a hard time, why is this guy speaking so loud? If you're having a hard time on dating apps, which most men are actually struggling with now. I've noticed this. A lot of men are telling me they're having a really tough time on dating apps. Check out the Ferrari dealership and the Bentley dealership. That would probably help you get some girls around here, the wrong type. So the men that are struggling on dating apps, they have to find new ways to explore the dating life. You don't want to be sitting at home, playing video games, jerking off for hours, being a loser. I did a podcast recently with a guy who told me that he was jerking off for 8 hours a day to porn. 8 hours a day. Now, I was never quite on such a level. I was never really a loser because I was constantly having to improve and to learn how to speak to girls, and sometimes I'd be at a massive disadvantage. I'd be like, all right, fine, I'm not 6'4", I'm not super wealthy, I'm young and still getting the hang of things, so I had to figure all this stuff out myself. The streets of London were a perfect place to do so. When you're in a big city like this, there's a couple of things that you really need to remember whenever you're approaching. The major aspect is that you can approach in any scenario possible. You do not have to wait for the right time. There is no right time. There is no right place. There is no particular street corner that just works better than another street corner. You do it wherever you feel comfortable. In fact, in the most natural environments, in the most natural situations, where it tends to work out the best. Whether that be in a coffee shop, you're just grabbing some lunch, you're just walking through a park like so. Just in Berkeley Square here, this is one of the most expensive and the finest parts of London, where all the big hedge funds and mutual funds are based. That's the famous Annabelle's there. Trillions of pounds are managed within this square right here. So it doesn't matter where you are. It just matters how you're approaching the situation. The first thing you need to be doing is making sure that you're dressed well. Very, very strange dress sense. Most men dress like shit and just look stupid. They look ridiculous. Now, London more so than anywhere, gentlemen actually dress quite well. Usually have a good style, a nice blazer, a nice jacket. Keep it super simple. Let's not go too funky. There used to be this concept called peacocking, which is like standing out from the crowd. Now in London, I don't really think you need something like that. You're better off actually dressing simple, smart, and casual. That's way more effective than peacocking and wearing some outrageous jacket which draws a shit ton of attention to you. Don't play that game. You really don't need to do so. Most women just want a normal looking guy. Well, they want a handsome guy, but they want a normal, well-dressed guy. Okay, it's not too much to ask for. So keep your clothes relatively simple and casual. And I always say, think about what James Bond would wear. James Bond's fashion sense is pretty simple, pretty casual style. And that's pretty much all you need. Simple colors, nothing too outrageous. You don't need to wear 15 rings so that you're standing out from the crowd. It's something I disagree with. You know, the idea that you have to completely stand out with the way that you dress. Perhaps on a night out, it's slightly different. Just switching hands here because I tell you what, sometimes my hand can get tired. Keep it simple. And secondly, this is extremely important, you must be polite at all times. You will get rejected many, many times over in the big city. Many times over. Sorry, I'm busy. Hey, get away from me. Go away from me, you freak. You'll hear 1,000 different things said to you. Right? You'll get abused on these streets of London because it can be harsh. However, again, you're dressed well, you're a gentleman, you're polite, you know how to speak, you are never ever rude, ever, no matter what the backlash is. You might get called a weirdo, she might be like, get the fuck away from me, you fucking freak. And you'll be like, oh, okay, have a nice day. Never be rude, always be gentlemanly, always be polite. And use situations, use situational openers. See, I don't like, hey, I thought you were gorgeous, I wanted to stop you. Be like, hi, excuse me, I'm looking for the nearest best coffee shop. Haven't been here for ages. Was just wondering, you know anywhere I could drink a nice coffee? She'll give you a direction and say, oh yeah, this place, or she might say, oh, I don't know. And then you can say at that point, you can be like, oh, don't worry about the coffee shop, I just thought you were cute and I wanted to say hi. How's your day going? Bang. See how smooth that is? Super smooth, crisp, and you're not really just going up to someone and saying, hi, I think you're gorgeous and I really want to speak to you. That's just putting way too much pressure. Nobody wants to be put under that kind of pressured situation. People want things to arise naturally. In her mind, she builds a certain type of story about how she met you. And that story needs to be natural, smooth, a coincidence, meeting her in the lift and bumping into her and having that kind of conversation. It needs to be a smooth transition. It cannot be forced, and you definitely don't want to come across as some absolute weirdo, which most men do. I find most men to be extremely awkward with their approach. Be dressed well, be polite, and keep it situational. You're in a coffee shop, you're sitting down having a coffee, be like, hi, I don't know what I'm ordering today, what kind of coffee are you getting? Who cares what you say? It's just how you say it and whether you say it confidently or not. That's what matters the most. In your situational openers, say it confidently and just be fun and a bit fun-loving and just generally a little bit cool. And, if you're dressed nice, the whole package comes together. You don't want to come across as desperate. You don't want to come across like you're out there trying to pick up girls. That is the worst way to be. If she thinks you're out there trying to pick up girls the whole day, being this weirdo pickup artist, which I hate. Pickup artists absolutely suck. I would never want to be one of those. You want to be going about your day, you're a busy guy, you're living a good life, and she just so happens to be right there in your face. And you'll be like, oh, I'm busy, I've got this going on. But listen, you seem like a great girl, let me take you for a coffee one day. Natural and smooth is always better than overly calculated and overly analytical. An overly analytical guy who's trying to approach a girl is never really going to come across as smooth. He's going to come across as a weirdo. He's going to come across as just like trying too hard. Be smooth, be natural, think of James Bond, be dressed well, and just have fun. And don't take it too seriously. When you come to a big city like this and you want to talk to some hot girls, whatever, she turns you down, who gives a shit? On to the next beautiful one. Dress well, be smart, and be polite. Good luck out there.